And so once us as accountants, we're sort of ready and we are kind of undergoing digital transformations within our own practices, what role can we play in helping our clients go through it?
I think with the digital transformation for clients, one, I think we have to go a little bit easy on ourselves. We're not going to be able to absorb every single app and integration, not relevant to us, but relevant to the clients. So we're not going to be this oracle of knowledge and know everything. But that shouldn't mean that you don't start the process. I mean, things that I like, App Advisory, a very good platform to go and learn bits. So long as I think you know as an accountant where to point the client in the direction of, or do research specific to your particular client. You might have a niche area, it might be CIS, it might be something else. But if you start actually making that first step towards looking at a product for your client, realize that the first time you're not going to get it right. And as your knowledge grows, you'll be able to be a bit more of an expert in that field. But that shouldn't be the stopping point. Really do give it a go, and failure is absolutely the one thing that's going to happen. I think you learn failure is a better teacher than success is. I think once you failed and you failed maybe 10 times, you actually know 10 ways of how not to do it, rather than the person who got it right first time, because that's the only thing they know to do right. So failure is an absolute lesson teacher for me, I think. So don't kind of the fear of failure, don't let that actually stop you from trying something new.
And practically, I mean, I totally agree. And we do need to make mistakes and fail and learn from those things. Practically, how do you find that experience with a client who maybe puts a lot of faith into you? And, as an accountant, we are the expert in our field. And when things go wrong, definitely probably feel like some sort of guilt and that we haven't performed as we're supposed to. How do we kind of best work those situations so clients don't? I think
you've got to put up your hand and say, listen, if you don't know something, because like you said, we are the trusted advisors, we are the go-to person. If we turn around and get used to saying, actually, I'm not sure, but I will find out, we know that we'll do a good job of finding out and actually presenting a case for this one or that one. And then we're so good with detail and things, we know we'll get the project right. But I think to be able to manage expectations with a client, to say to them, listen, this is not something I know about, but I will look. And if I need to refer you to a specialist, I will do so. The fact that you've actually done that it almost makes them trust you a little bit better. There's an element of trust that you're going to gain with the client if you've actually said, I don't actually know. Otherwise, you're always saying, yes, I know. And then you're going to make a dog's dinner out of it. And then they will hold you to ransom, essentially, on that fact. So I think it's important to be able to manage your own, manage client expectations, but actually know your own limitations as well. Sure. It's not we weren't born with all knowledge, and therefore it's something that has to be learned. And I think we have to realize we can't learn everything all at once. It's got to be a staged process. There's no big bang to it. And
maybe I don't know if as a practice you've experienced this, but the kind of opportunities that cloud-based software has offered in terms of client access to data and their sort of ability to play around with stuff and maybe do stuff themselves a little bit. So that kind of transition from an accountant being in full control to giving away some of it to a client, maybe that, I don't know if it's called DIY bits of bookkeeping that then you go and sort of audit afterwards and make sure that they've done it properly, because they maybe have 80% of the knowledge or 90%, but that's that fine tuning at the end. I don't know if you guys have experienced that in any way and whether you deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we were trying to digitize a lot of clients or moving them onto a cloud software, there you have I kind of categorize my clients into sort of three areas. You've got the bring it on types, you've got the have a go, And then you've got the no can do, will straight up tell you not doing it. That's what I pay you for. And you're just going to have to work with that client and their expectations. The thing is, I've always been pleasantly surprised by certain things and realized that I've had a bias against maybe an older generation client who does it a lot better than a younger one. So I think you have to at least allow each client, I think you owe them that much, to actually tell them this is out there and let them pick and not actually have a judgment on what they are likely to go, because it could fall on its head. And we all know as accountants, and we love that sort of digital thing where everything's connected and the information comes in. No accountant I know likes the shoe bag clients, but processes that you can actually digitize that yourself, even if they still walk in bags. You yourself have to decide what the process is going to be. Don't have too many, because you will spread yourself very thinly in terms of trying to accommodate everything and everyone. So I think it's important to try and make sure the client fits, the software fits the client rather than the client is being forced into a software. I mean, that is the human element, and trying to manage that human element is so important. We're not all robots, and neither are clients. So I think it's important to definitely try and help them, make them understand that this process is going to make their lives easier, overcome that initial hurdle, which is always the first one. It's the highest hurdle that you have to go through. But maybe just tell them. I think as accountants, we're not good salespersons at all. A lot of clients will turn around and say, oh, actually, I didn't know you did that. And that's a common, sort of common thing that I've heard from clients over the years. And I thought, gosh, did I not tell them? And then maybe that's because I'm not being salesy all the time, So I think tell clients what your expertise is. Some of them will turn around and actually say, I didn't know that. And there you've got another value that you can add to them. And that for you is a new service line.
Yeah, definitely. And just saying, like, even just app advisory, I feel like that's a service line that's going to become more and more standard as the years go by. What worries me, or what concerns me, is that the skill of accountancy it may be fall by the wayside. And I don't know if that's going to change, because I think CPD is sort of like changing. I think for ICAEW, at least, it's changing to a more structured form now. Yeah. Whereas before it was kind of like do your own thing.
Yeah.
And then just self-certify. Whereas now we're going to go back to structured stuff, which is before my time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but then equally we have this whole other side of accountancy, which is being good at the techie stuff. Yeah. And then on top of that, once you're good at that, it then opens the door to be more of an advisor. So, we've had compliance, or we've got compliance, which was kind of all it was back in the day, to now tech advisor, to also just general business advisor. I feel like the scope of what an accountant does is really, or can do, is really, really broad now.
There's a lot of, I call myself a tax therapist. I think during COVID, I was a tax therapist. And it's amazing how much psychology goes into that. It's not just you pick up the phone, here's your problem, and then you put down the phone. It's everything else now. And I think that realization that people want to talk about their dreams, their goals, and that conversation, that client meeting now is a lot broader. It's not necessarily one specific area that you delve into. It's a lot broader, and then you have the opportunity to go deeper into certain areas. And CPD, yes, it's it needs to be there, because like you said, we can forget that we're actually qualified professionals, and we need to keep that up as well and not just get involved into tech. I mean, the analogy I like to give, and here's a Marvel one, is that Iron Man, I think software and IT did for Tony Stark what sort of Iron Man basically did for Tony Stark. It enabled him to do things better, faster, and it was more shinier than him. But I think sort of as the movies went on, you realize the superhero was actually Tony Stark and not the Iron Man. It's just the bits that go on. So it's an enabler, but it's not the thing. And I think you've got to realize, again, the accountant is still the same human being needs to have still the same skill sets. Yes, it's a little bit broader. Yes, we now need to know a bit more tech and things. And by all means, if you have more team members that can specialize in that area a little bit better, if you can tap into all these platforms that actually give you that advice, if you can find something for, I don't know, sales online or managing data better, So I think, there's a lot more. We're broader as human beings.
Fozia, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. We've learned heaps from you, decades worth of experience, so much specific insight into digital transformation, how we can help our clients and how we can help ourselves as accountancy practitioners. So it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today, and thank you so much for your time.
Likewise, Mike. Thank you for having me.
To make sure you catch every episode, subscribe to the channel or sign up to the Sage Advice newsletter at the bottom of the page.